Questions are in fact the most important part of a presentation in a business context or in a public context if you're presenting. Because questions mean that you've engaged your audience and they want to know more. And yet, most presenters fear questions. And the fear and the anxiety is, what if I'm asked a question I cannot answer? So let me talk a little bit about how you prepare for questions. If you're doing a presentation and you know that there is a particular question, there is an elephant in the room, there is a 200-pound gorilla that needs to be addressed, I recommend you start your presentation by addressing that question. You frame it up. And I would say something to my audience like, many of you are probably thinking that. So for instance, if you need to give a presentation and there's recently been a whole series of layoffs and you're talking about career development, a lot of people are going to have in the back of their mind, well, is this just another way of saying some more people are going to be laid off? So you need to start your presentation and start saying, well, isn't it exciting that we're going to be talking about career development at XYZ company? You need to say, look, we want to talk about career development. I understand that many of you are anxious because some of your colleagues have been let go. But I want to assure you that this presentation is not about that. This presentation is about those of you with the company, how we can take you to the next level. And so you've addressed the question right up front. That way, you don't have to spend the rest of the presentation anxious and fearful about what that question would be. We call this putting the fish on the table. This is the thing that is going to be addressed at some point. And your audience will thank you for that authenticity. Now, if there isn't an elephant in the room or a 200-pound gorilla, then you need to anticipate what might be the questions that your presentation raises. And in fact, you can invite questions by saying, well, some of you might have some questions about, and then that prompts the question time. Nothing worse than a facilitator saying, any questions? And then there's a deathly silence. So then you might say, well, some of you might be having questions about. Then what happens if you get asked a question that you really don't know the answer? Well then, here's an opportunity. You thank the questioner and you say, you know what? That is a great question. I really didn't anticipate that question, and so that demonstrates you've really thought about the material. You know, what I would like to ask you is, would you allow me some time to reflect on that so that I can come back to you with a really good answer? I'm going to talk to you offline about that. Connect with me afterwards, make sure I've got your email and phone so I can get back to you. And that will disarm that questioner who may have an agenda behind that question. So remember, when you get a question, always thank the questioner and if necessary, repeat the question so that the rest of the audience can hear it, and that of course gives you that extra few seconds to process. Never make the questioner wrong. Sometimes questioners don't even phrase it as a question, they phrase it as a statement. I often hear, Mr. Andrew, don't you agree that? And I absolutely don't agree with that. So I have to say, thank you for the question. And that's a very interesting perspective. And what I want to emphasize is slide 27, where I covered my ideas and concepts on this. And then you just end up restating your point. Of course, that makes you a wonderful politician, but a great presenter.
Monkey see, monkey like, monkey do. bananamana.com